It's already late, so we can open the meeting. I know Gillian's on her way. She'll be here shortly, but we can get rid of some of the formalities. I think like approving the minutes from last time. Has everybody had a chance to look at those? The minutes from February 16th.
Yes, I did. I can make a motion to approve those minutes.
Oh, good. Thank you. So I'll second that. Any further discussion? And seeing none, we can vote to approve those. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, those were approved unanimously. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Another great job. And we are looking for a replacement. Not easy to find, but we're looking. All right, so on the agenda here, we have Western Mass Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement. I'm not really too clear on that. Glenn, do you have further info on that one?
Sure. So this is an agreement between many, many towns in Franklin, Hampshire, Hampden, and I think Berkshire counties that the Leverett chief asked the select board to consider joining. It essentially allows police to help each other out by invitation, so that if Wendell was having a situation that required more police personnel, they could request help from other towns and vice versa. It includes the UMass campus. And I think Wendell is one of the few remaining towns that hasn't signed on. So he asked that we consider signing on. He recommends that we do.
Okay, good. That sounds good to me. Lori, any thoughts?
No, I guess I'm surprised we haven't already done it. Is there any obligation that we might need to worry about? We don't need to pay anything or?
Yeah, I didn't see anything that you'd need to worry about. I think some people might be concerned about police from outside of our agreement with Leverett coming in, but it's only by invitation, and it's clearly been, extremely kind of vetted and gone over. The language is all pretty good. There was a copy of it in your inbox to read, and there's a hard copy for you to read as well on the desk in the select board's office. So,
okay. And were you aware of any time frame restraints on this? Is something that Scott would like to have done sooner, maybe?
Sooner rather than later. He was hoping to have it on for the last meeting, but it was after the meeting had been posted, so I put him off till tonight. But again, we haven't been participating in it. It's been in existence for a while, so another 2 weeks if you wanted to go over the language and deliberate more, you could.
Okay. What do you think, Lori? I mean, we do have a lot of mutual aid agreements with the fire departments around here, and obviously we had one with the state police that's in force all the time. We have a mutual aid agreement with them. So
I think it's fine. Is it just something we need to sign or vote on, or what do we need to do?
I think it makes sense for the select board to vote, and then the signature is for Dan to sign, and it's in your inbox.
I mean, we can wait for Gillian if we think we want to have a bit more, just to make sure she's in
well,
the
we
loop.
can get her opinion on it. I would be in favor of going ahead and voting on it tonight, just to get it going. But we can check in with her when she gets here.
Okay.
Working assessor wage is one of the next items. I'm not sure exactly why that's.
We might need to wait for the assessors for that, I think.
Oh,
which is the 7:30.
Right. And then the select board clerk wage, flat stipend or hourly. It seemed to me to make sense what Glenn recommended, which was hourly. I believe Carolyn was okay with that.
Oh, she just left.
She just disappeared, but.
Yes, I think she said it didn't matter to her.
Right.
It was up to us. So I think it's fine too.
I think it's a good idea. Do we know what the hourly rate is on that at the moment?
Well, they do
1676.
the base rate. So it'll be 1625 next year.
1625. And
Starting July 1.
probably be a good idea to start doing a little more advertising for it. I don't think we even put it on the list serve, did we, Lori?
I did. I've done it a few times over the
Oh, you
past,
have. All
after,
right.
since Liam left.
Okay.
I've done it here and there.
Did you put the hourly rate? Probably not.
Well,
It wasn't
it-
hourly.
Right. I put whatever was the appropriate, I think the salary was what I put.
Right, which is a stipend, basically.
Yeah,
or it was.
but it
So
works
we might
out to
wanna
a decent
repost it with
hourly
the
wage.
hourly
I think.
rate.
Yes,
Makes a difference.
definitely.
I think I
So-
can catch this out and put them in one line by figuring out how many hours it was expected to be paid to the salaried one. And just put them in one line.
Okay.
So I think Carolyn's back. This might be something we need to vote on also.
Right, wouldn't be a bad idea. Carolyn, we were talking about the pay for the select board clerk or the select board minute taker. And it's been suggested that we make that hourly rather than a stipend, and my feeling was that you had said that that was okay with you, is that right?
That's fine with me. It doesn't matter either way. It seems more logical that you could just have one expense line for your, the select board clerk, period. And it doesn't matter whether you have 3 people you pay from that or 1 person, and then just pay them hourly. And you decide who does what duties.
Okay. That sounds pretty flexible.
And Joy is getting that same rate, pay rate? I mean, the rate would have to be the same for anybody who is doing any of those jobs, is that correct?
Well, again, you can, that's for you to decide. The select board votes on the hourly rate scale each year. So if you feel that one type of clerk position warrants a higher salary than the other, that's up to you. It just needs to be identified on that rate schedule. Right now, the clerk, the hourly clerk gets paid the $15.76.
Okay. So that's what we were going to do anyway, so. Okay, so if I make a motion to change the current salaried select board clerk position to an hourly position with a current rate of $15.76, that will change on July 1st to $16.25. Is that all I need?
I think so. I'll second that motion. Any discussion further? Carolyn, do you have something?
Sorry, did you ask me something?
Yeah, did you have any further thoughts before we actually vote on whether or not to make this a hourly position?
No, I fully support it.
Okay, great. In that case, we'll vote on that motion to make this an hourly position. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
That passes unanimously.
I have a question that might be relevant for Carolyn.
Okay,
If she's still there, I guess she is somewhere. Carolyn, if Glenn and I were talking about this today, but if we put a little money into the coordinator line, salary line to accommodate the possibility of needing to hire a sub for him while he's on vacation, does that need to be a separate line, or can it just be part of the salary line for the coordinator?
I would think that would just go into the salary line for the coordinator. And again, it's just like Doug, when you were being The
Yeah.
the coordinated funds all came out of the same line. It just
Yep.
was for two different people.
Okay, that's
So
easy.
it's however the, it gets structured during the budget process.
Yep.
So,
That's good.
Okay, good. I think that takes care of that agenda item, the select board clerk wage. Next item on there is coordinator laptop, and I think that's all under control. Glenn, you're working on that?
Yep, narrowing in on a laptop, the current quote for the laptop with a docking station and a monitor is $2,400. And I have been researching quite a bit using the small town administrators listserv. A lot of people like going with Dell, and it seems like, to me, the price seemed kind of steep, but everyone's saying the prices are pretty high right now. So Doug was suggesting we go ahead, given the availability of ARPA funds.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Lori, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Great. I don't think we need to vote on that one. So you can just take it away, Glenn.
Alrighty.
What was the bottom line on that, actually, roughly?
I got it up right here. I'm just disappearing. So let's see. Laptop, docking station, speakers and monitor, 24, 38, 33.
Okay, thanks. The next item on our list here is chorus use of town hall. Don't know if we notified the Board of Health that this was going to be an item for discussion, but definitely have to review that with them. But Lori, have any further info?
Well, I was the one, I've been talking with Morningstar, and I was the one who put in the application. So just that we want to use it Monday nights again, which, Glenn, did you ever find the schedule, the calendar?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Oh, you know where that calendar is? It's on the bulletin board as you go to the kitchen in the town office building. As you go down that corridor to the kitchen, on the left-hand side, there's a bulletin board. And
Okay.
the schedule for the town hall is posted on that.
Oh, great. Well, there is a blank calendar up there because there wasn't anything on it.
Oh, okay.
I got a new 2022 calendar and put it up there, but I don't think I knew what it was for. I guess I thought it was for the for using the office space at the town offices, but
That's the way we kept the record of the town hall calendar.
okay, great.
May as well stick with it, I guess.
Well, Monday nights are free. Every night is free.
I can't remember, Al, do you remember Doug? Al was gonna do his Morris dancers.
I think he found some other places.
Oh, he did? Okay. That was the only thing I was worried about, because I know we
Yeah.
had approved that and I couldn't remember what night it was.
I think for now he's okay, and I don't think it was Monday night. Anyway,
Okay. So I guess I would, because we were approved to do the chorus last fall, I think the COVID situation was worse at that point. We were using masks and special singing masks and the air purifiers. And it's only for vaccinated people. And Barbara just sent that email about not needing the mask mandate anymore. I guess I would hope we could get approval without having to wait for the Board of Health, just because it's starting in less than a couple of weeks. So we just want to be able to tell people for sure.
Yeah, that all sounds good to me. And I'll move that we approve use of the town hall for the chorus.
Thank you. I'll second if I can.
You can, I think. And with no further discussion, I think we can just vote on that. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So
Thank
we've
you.
approved that. And I'm pretty sure Gillian will be fine with that. And it's good to know that Barbara is, Board of Health is on alert that this is happening and
Yeah,
conferring.
my discussions with her were about town hall, but, town meeting. But I'll follow up with her too, just to be sure, but.
Okay. Thanks. Scheduling FY23 Mahar budget meeting with New Salem.
Yeah, I guess this is an annual thing and it helps to have both like kind of a joint committee meeting. So I don't know how it's been scheduled in the past. Just need to poll you all for your availability for that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think ordinarily we'd have an evening meeting, probably at 7. And
Okay.
it would be with the school committee, both school committees probably, and both select boards or representation thereof.
Okay,
I'm flexible for any weekday night,
okay, Great.
Aside from the select board meetings.
yep. Okay,
And I guess Laurie and Gillian can get back to you with their flexibility. Or
okay, great. I'll poll Gillian and Lori and we'll
Does
find.
the FinCom, I don't actually remember ever attending one of these before.
Yeah,
Um,
there. But I already got a draft of their budget, but yeah, we should probably get a FinCom member there, if not more.
Okay, I'll poll your group as well.
okay, good.
Hi, Gilly.
Hi, Gillian.
Hi, sorry for my late start.
That's okay. You're here. Welcome.
Thanks.
We're breezing through this somewhat uneventful agenda, and I would sum it up for you, except you can read it in the minutes shortly. So
That's fine. Thanks.
we did wait for a couple things for you, or one, which was
Yeah, MOU for the Western Mass Law Enforcement Mutual Aid Agreement.
Oh, yes, I did read that.
oh, good. Lori and I discussed it briefly, and we pointed out there were members of all kinds of mutual aid with the fire departments and the state police, and it sounded sort of pro forma and like a good idea. So sounded
That's
good.
kind of
to
how I
us.
felt. Yeah, we haven't signed anything like that in the past.
Not with this particular group.
Uh-huh.
It's just a different configuration, but we've signed plenty of mutual aid agreements.
Yeah. And if Scott's supports it,
He
it seems
does.
like makes sense. Yep.
Yep. Okay, so probably not a bad idea to vote on that one. So I'll move that we accept this mutual aid agreement.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. So that passes unanimously. Yeah, and then going back to the beginning of the agenda, we skipped over transfer of phone lines to UMA.
Oh,
Someone probably knows more about that than I do.
I brought it up. So,
Sounds
We
like
had
a
this-
good idea, but
yeah, we had talked about it before with Nancy, and I think it was more than Nancy wanted to try to figure out. It was like right as she was leaving. But I do think we need to figure out, it doesn't make sense for us to be paying for these separate phone lines when we could be using UMA. And it
Right.
might be an upfront cost, but I think we should see what we can do to move ahead. And I don't know if that's something that we can ask Glenn to follow up with them about, or if anybody else has more information about it.
I think it sounds like a good job for Glenn.
Totally. So it's Whip City, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to them.
And
Yeah,
I
it'll
think
be
it would
good
be
for you
about,
to connect with them also,
yeah,
since they're providing all of our internet at the moment.
Yeah.
and
Great.
finding out about what it would take, like cost and how it works, and probably all the other departments too, like the library, the
Yeah, I know
fire.
Joe was interested. Yeah.
our Verizon expenses are ridiculous. They're really high. And it's a pain in the butt doing the bill, the bill.
Just the paperwork is overwhelming for Verizon.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's,
gotta-
yeah.
It's unbelievable. I don't remember the figure right now, but it's a lot annually. And so no matter what it costs to install it, it can't possibly be at 29.
Right.
months
I know an issue back when we were looking at this was, and Anna can say, I know that Gretchen wanted the fax. So the fax was one of the issues both for the town offices and the library,
Yeah,
which would require keeping the phone line. Actually, the alarm systems might have also needed the phone line. I'm not sure about that, but there's definitely a lot of things that play into it, Glenn. So
yep.
fax, the alarm systems, for some reason, my memory is that maybe even the UMA phones didn't support all the multiple lines that the town office uses, but I might not, I don't know if I trust my memory on that. So just keep that in mind. I was trying to look back through my emails, and if I find something that's relevant, I'll forward it to you in terms of all of that.
Yeah, there might also be an issue with the police and fire departments. I'm not sure that they'd be comfortable switching over their phone line to this. So we would just need to check with them in advance.
And I guess I thought that most of the buildings have already done it, except for the town offices. And so maybe the library and the fire still have a Verizon line because of these reasons. But they also have UMA lines, is what I'm remembering. But
Okay.
so it
So
was
I
really just the town offices that didn't, really switch because of this multi-line system they have.
Well, that and the alarm system.
And the alarm and the fax. And yeah, Anna, do you still think that a fax is necessary?
It is rare, but when I need to fax something to the state, I need to fax it to the state. And then veterinarian offices fax the records to me as well. So
Okay.
yes, unfortunately, it is still necessary to have a fax machine.
Okay.
But we might be able to just reduce the number of Verizon lines.
Mhm.
It came up because I was talking with Asa, and Asa was saying it would be really nice to have the UMA phones there.
Oh, so they don't have them. All right. I don't know how that didn't follow through. I thought that it was on track to. And the other thing I sort of remember is maybe UMA can do faxes, but it might not be as reliable, or you can't do them at the same time you're using the phone or something. So anyway, again, it's got a lot of little pieces.
Yeah, it's a research project, Glenn.
Bring it. It's just my cup of tea.
Yeah,
I
I think
believe
that-
you can send faxes online. So if you can scan a document and then use a web-based site to turn it into a fax and it will go. I don't know if you can receive them that way though.
You can get phone numbers virtually, so people feel like they're just faxing a phone number, but it comes in as a scan. But as Anna is saying, sometimes these state agencies will mandate that you have to have a machine, you have to be in the same era of technology that they're in. So we're probably still going to need at least one fax machine in the town offices, but I've got one too, Anna, and we're paying a lot for that fax line. So maybe you and I can figure out how to share one,
So I when I have to fax something, I use the one in the town coordinator's office. I
Oh,
don't have
okay.
my own
Oh, that's
fax.
good to know. Yeah.
No, I just looked, $5,000 a year would pay to Verizon.
Yeah. Yeah, so every line we can eliminate is to the good.
And then there's the time of the bill schedules, which is
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
weeks.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, it's 7:30 and I see that we have the assessors and the tax collector here, so we can launch into this discussion. Lori, I think maybe you were the person who put this on originally, and no?
Gillian or,
I
well,
had-
there was discussion and I just said we should talk about it at the meeting. Email discussion, so yeah. But,
There were
I
a
think-
couple different discussions happening. I had emailed with Penny and spoken with Anna, and sounded like there, it just felt like it was a conversation was needed to sort of move ahead. A group conversation. I don't know if more needs, so Penny, as tax collector, has come up with the suggestion of, and you'll have to remind me of the name of it because I don't have my notes right in front of me. Quality,
It goes by, can you hear me?
yep,
Okay, it's QDS. It's out of Connecticut,
mhm,
but several towns in the western part of Massachusetts are using it. And we've checked with Kelly at our there's too many names. Check Kelly or checked with Kelly, and she's already working with that program, and it speaks. There is a bridge to the Patriot program the assessors have, and she's fine with that program. And Kathy, who has done the research for me, she's the New Salem tax collector.
Right,
I don't know if you all know that she works here.
yes.
Okay,
Thank
she
you, Kathy.
feels that this one is a much better fit for Wendell than the Vadar. It has things that we usually use that Vadar doesn't have. And we just feel that since we're the ones that are going to be using this, we should be able to, as long as it's going to work with everybody, that we should be able to choose which program we get to
Mhm.
work with.
And sorry, I can't get my video to start. It was working a minute ago, but of course now it isn't. But I'm here.
That's- Yeah,
Okay. Well, Kathy, thanks for being here, and thank you,
Yeah.
Penny, for that explanation. I just want to get the name right. It's QVS.
yep.
Yes, Quality
Okay.
Data Services Systems, sorry. They
And
were also the program that was chosen by it was a group called the CSC, Community Software Consortium, which was a group advising towns on software. And when the state stopped supporting the tax collector CAMA program, which had been in use for quite a while, this group went out and researched all of the groups. And this is the program that they actually chose. So that's another endorsement.
okay,
oh, can I ask a question?
yeah.
Penny and Kathy, do you think they would be able to come out and do a presentation for us so that we had a better understanding of all the different components and the cost?
We have statements of the costs, which have been provided. They're slightly less. All they would do is do a demonstration of the tax collection software, which is not something that I could imagine anyone else would have a whole lot of interest in seeing. I can ask them if we can do a connected, an online program. I'm not doing in-person meetings right now, but I'm sure they could do a presentation, but it's very specific to the tax collection. So it's pretty boring.
I would be interested in seeing the bridge to the assessor software.
You don't actually see that. That's just something that's part of the program. It's not something that's visible. I mean, it's, I can approach them about it. It's the
Yeah,
same. It's the same as Vader's. It's just a simple thing that allows the information to move more easily when the assessors export their data to the tax collector when the imports are done to do the tax billing.
So I just would like to maybe clarify a few things. I know you've spoken with Kelly and she does have towns that use QDS. There's a couple. None of the towns that RRG works with in the entire state, none of them have Patriot and QDS.
That's
So
not.
that
Because
is true of RRG's, the towns
Okay.
that RRG works in. They don't have any towns that use both Patriot and QDS. I
QDS
understand.
works with
Can I,
Patriot.
Kathy, I'm sorry, can I just go through my, the things I want to add? I understand that they have a bridge that works with Patriot. In speaking with David Monzello, who's the vice president of RRG, he highly recommends that we go with Vadar because of the way both the compatibility, but also on the assessor side, it is different from the other programs. It actually allows us to, we have our own piece, like small piece of Vadar in our system that we can enter information in directly, and then that gets sent over to you. So things like excise bills, which my understanding is the towns that use Vadar, the assessors get the information from the deputy collector, which I believe is the way the information is supposed to flow. We can pull our file, pull any, farm plates or exempt plates. And then when the file is all accurate on our end, we can push it over. We've entered it all in our side of Vadar. We can then push it over to your side. So I think there are some ways in which it's different that allows the assessors to do more that will facilitate the commitment process and the way we pass information between the offices.
I'd like to respond. First off, QDS does work with Patriot, and yes, they have a bridge that would allow you to do the things that Vadar does. Secondly, this is a minimal portion of what the assessors do. This is what the collector does day in and day out. We're already being asked to move away from a system specifically built to accommodate the collector, which has worked perfectly up until this year. And so now we want to move to another program, which we have checked and made sure would accommodate the assessors. It is better than Vadar in terms of what it can do. I approached them, Vadar, I spent hours meeting with both companies. As an example, one of the things that they wouldn't do was add an email address to our bills for the assessors or the collector. So there would be no information on there for people to reach out to us. And I know email is the primary way that RRG wants to be able to communicate. We also wouldn't be able to list our online payment system, which people are using much, much more these days. And it's the only way people can pay with either debit or credit cards, which a lot of people are making use of. So I wanted to be able to add that to the bill. I got a response back from Vadar that they might be able to do something, and that they would be able to work it for another line of data to be added possibly to the bills. The additional cost for doing that would be $2,490 to make that adjustment. QDS, on the other hand, already allows that flexibility. They also have features that will be huge time savings for the tax collector for entering all of their data. And it will dramatically impact how much time is spent by our office entering data.
I mean, my question is I was led to believe that the assessors were wanting us to change our program, which we've agreed to do. And we're the ones that are going to be using this program daily, every single time we're in this office, or if Kathy does it also over the line, over the internet. This is what we work with every day. So why is it any question that we've researched it, cleared by Kelly, RRG, saying it does work and they can get, the bridge works with the assessors. And so what's the big deal? Why is it such a argument fight here? It's like, we're the ones that will be using this tax collector program. If it's our program, then I believe we should have a say in what we get.
Penny,
I agree. I think most of it should be your decision. I think as one branch of the town offices, it would be nice that since our systems need to work together, that our input is at least taken into consideration. And I think just checking with Kelly and holding that up as the final say isn't, it's not something that I'm okay with. I think that needs to come from the board. And I've talked with Kelly, and I've also talked with people who are higher up than Kelly, who have more experience with that side of it. And their recommendation is that Vadar is a better program to go with. They have a really good working relationship with them. They have worked out issues. If that's not the choice you want to make, that's fine. I just,
Yeah, I understand.
that's our input from our side of it.
Yeah.
And
RRG
this will work.
is also an assessor's firm. They're advising you based on their experience with it as assessors.
Right, they're
So-
not the tax collectors.
Yeah.
No, I've also reached out to other, prior to this last year, had reached out to other assessing offices in the area and spoke with several that said their tax collector was really happy with the software. I am by no means trying to do your job at all. I just think it's important to understand that from our side of it, it has not just been the past year that has been challenging with passing information from our software to your software. This has been ongoing for a while. And it was also my understanding that that MuniWare was no longer going to be an option. So there had to be a change now. It's not just that we're pushing for it.
No,
that's not
Uniware I was going to continue to offer to the town for free. They were no longer going to be charging, but I was going to be supporting it. The town was not going to be paying at all. So I was going to do that because I wanted to support the town. It had been working for years. It's worked in other towns with other assessors, and it has been fine. This is coming out of, I'm no longer willing to do something for free to support this because it has become unpleasant. So I don't want to do it anymore. I will go with a program to accommodate your Patriot software, and I won't ask you to change Patriot. We'll just make the change on our side.
But are you saying that changes still need to be made even with this new software?
No,
Your program, no, it will
I'm
work.
saying, yeah, we're moving to
We're
this
changing.
software
Right, we're changing our program for.
to
so that
accommodate
it
you.
works better with your program.
So
I guess that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, well, we're the ones that are going to be using this.
Okay, well, we can consider changing from Patriot. You didn't seem to want to do that, so.
We could talk about it. The other option is Vision. I had reached out to them a while ago. They were astronomically more expensive than Patriot is. And other than Patriot, I don't know of any other options. There are very few options for assessing software. And we went through this conversion not very long ago and invested a lot of money in the conversion, and research was put in at the time as to what software to move to when the CAMA program was no longer going to be supported. And unless the town wants to spend, I think it was like $30,000. I don't know that makes sense to change
But
it on
we're
our.
not
ask-
telling you to change your program. We're saying the program we have researched and have looked into, it works with your program, and we're happy to go with that.
Which is why, that's great. And I would like to, is there a way to have some kind of a trial with QDS and make sure that when we pass you a data file that there's no issues? We've been able to already do that. David Monzello sent our file over to Vadar. They were able to convert it with no issues with any of the way that the addresses were entered, any of the issues with the outbuildings not transferring that were happening with MuniWare. None of that happened with Vadar. So is there a way to do that to see if we have any issues with QDS before we take the
I'm sorry
plunge?
that RRG had so many problems with the software because no one else did. As I said, it was in use for years. We can do something like that, but I'm going to be spending hundreds of hours working on getting everything converted and cleaned up. And just like you said, when you converted your software, it was a very expensive and time-consuming process. And I'm heading into that no matter what we switch to. And I'm more than willing to do that. I can arrange for some sort of demonstration, but I'm not entirely clear why it's the tax collector software. I'm just not clear on where we're going with this. But anyway, I've done a lot of research on this, and I'm more than happy to reach out to QDS and have them take a file and look at it. And we can have them do a demonstration of their software. If actually it's Rebecca who works with Kelly in Royalston, who is able to do demonstrations for QDS. So she could set something up to arrange to have a demonstration done. I just don't want this to drag out too long. We're heading into a very busy time. We're already going to be jumping fiscal years, which is much more problematic when you're doing this kind of import. And we're heading into a very busy time where trying to do all this conversion in the midst of a very bad time of year is going to be an extra burden on both Penny and myself.
Gillian?
I was hoping that one of the goals would be that we could work on improving the communication, because the offices work together. There's multiple offices that work together, and that, maybe just having a conversation with people from QDS could help answer some of the questions that the assessor's office has, and just to help the process work a little smoother.
The dealings between the assessors have been going very well. Kelly and I have been emailing back and forth. You can ask Kelly. We've gotten into a rhythm. So I don't think communication between the assessors is an issue, because I'm supposed to be dealing with Kelly. So I absolutely agree that if it would put people's minds at ease, it makes sense to have QDS do some sort of demonstration, and I can approach them on that.
And it may be more of like a question and answer, and sort of making sure that sort of those, excuse me, that things work very smoothly once, like the example of the transfer of information.
It's a good idea.
Just on the communication note, I would like to request that emails to RRG still get sent to the assessor's email and not to Kelly's direct email. That way the board, we all get copies of emails that are sent automatically to that address. That way we're in the loop with what's going on in all the communications. And just a reminder that ultimately the decisions are made by the board and not by Kelly. So we
Right,
would
I
still
can
like those emails to come through our main email line.
Yeah, I can do that. I've never experienced that before because you always work directly with the assessor's clerk, which they're replacing, but I will gladly include you. I just, the boards that I've dealt with have not required that before, but I will gladly do that.
I would also just like to say, it feels like it has gotten a little bit adversarial between the Board of Assessors and the Tax Collector's Office. And I would really hope that we can be more working in collaboration with each other. That has been my goal from the beginning, to increase communication and to work together to better serve the town. And I, from the beginning, have never wanted to step on anybody's toes or tell you how to do your job or what specifically you should choose for your office. I just would like it to be a relationship where we're working together and supporting each other.
I support that wholeheartedly. And as I said, Kelly and I have been working quite a bit together. It's been going well. I'm not excluding you when I say that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to exclude you when I said that. I just mean that the communications have been happening, and we can increase it to be sure to include all members.
Talks to you guys about it.
I'm sorry.
I was saying, I've always assumed that whenever we correspond with Kelly, everything go, the assessors are told everything that's going on. And like Kathy said, we are used to dealing with the clerk, the assessor's clerk, because that's what we've done. That's what I've done for 25 years now.
Right, and the assessor's clerk would typically be using our main email address. So there wouldn't be the choice of a separate.
Well, before there was a person, and we did a lot of in-person stuff to get information between the two offices. So it's a little different these days. So it makes it a little more impersonal, I guess is the word I'd like.
Yeah, I think I'm also more, we have been keeping a close eye on all the communications that are happening between Kelly and other members of RRG and anyone, just because of the transition, and we want to see how they're handling things. If we have feedback for them, they've been very receptive. So it's really important to us that we are aware of all the communications that are happening.
Okay, we'll switch over to just sending it directly to the assessor's email, and Kelly will get it there.
Yeah, it gets sent directly to her email address, so she gets them automatically, just like the voicemails.
Okay, I've been doing it the other way.
Yeah, me too. I'll fix that.
Can I ask a question?
Doug?
I just have a question, just a clarification. So, Anna, this would it be correct that this would be completely separate from and independent of the discussion we had about Access GIS and that other piece of that has to do with assessing software that would give more access to information?
Yeah, that's separate.
Okay. Good.
Okay, well, it sounds to me like we've made some progress here, and there's sort of an outline of a path forward. We're going to have QVS do some sort of a demonstration and a test to see if documents flow smoothly with the assessors. And Anna, thanks for being receptive to the software that the tax collector would like to use. And thanks to the tax collector's office for researching all the different possibilities and coming up with a recommendation. And as one select board member, I just don't feel like I'm an expert by any means on any of the issues involving the software. So I tend to take the advice of our town experts and in this case, I think the tax collector's office has really researched the possibilities and come up with something that they like. And I think everything the assessors can do to try to work with that would be appreciated, because it's important that the tax collector have a platform that they're comfortable with. But we do have a way to test it out and
Sure.
talk about it and communicate. So let's try that.
And unmute. That sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah, we're happy to, show it or have them come and or talk to you guys. Well, nobody comes anymore. It's so quiet here, but they can do a presentation for you guys.
That'd be great.
The other question I had, how does it get determined how we're, regardless of what we choose or is chosen, figure out how to pay for it? Doug?
That's not my job. That's Doug.
It's kind of reasonable according to what you gave me so far. Well, in the request that you filled out, Penny, it
Oh,
doesn't.
I have no idea what you want from me with that one.
Okay, I mean, so I guess if included in the expenses that you put here, I mean, there's a note: new computer program and wages for increased workload for changeover. Okay, but there's no estimate of how much the cost of the new program would be outside of that.
Yeah, because we hadn't made any decisions yet.
Yeah, so I can't tell you.
I just wanted to alert you. It's gonna cost you, Doug.
Yeah, how much? What are we
Yeah,
talking?
trust me, it'll be okay.
Sure.
It looks like it's about $7,200 a year from the quote that was provided.
Yeah,
And then an additional one-time fee of about $6,200 for startup.
We
Yeah.
we
Would they
also
want-
have quotes from Vader, and I did also approach Munis. Munis never responded, despite my finally calling their corporate headquarters in Texas. And so I was told by our treasurer that that's considered a quote as well, by being a non-quote. So we can supply all of that to you, Doug. I think you have that, Penny.
yeah, I think, well, you must have both the
Yeah.
Beta and the QDS.
It, from all the discussions of the last 6 months or whatever, it certainly seems that something needs to work better. So if this makes the whole process easier for everybody in the long run, it's probably worth doing. But
Okay.
not a tight year this year, but there may be tight years in the future. So who knows?
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the assessors and to the tax collector's office very much.
Good-
Sounds
good
like we have
night.
something of
right.
a plan to move forward on. Thanks for working on that.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Kathy. Bye.
Thanks, Kathy.
And thanks to Penny, who seems to have disappeared also. Okay. Moving right along. I think we were in the midst of, we did talk about scheduling of the Mahar budget meeting, and Glenn was going to check on dates, availability. And then the only other thing on our formal agenda is the warrant for the special town meeting. And since
Yeah,
Okay.
we still needed to talk about the working assessor, which with the assessors here, I think.
all right, that's right.
Okay.
Working assessor, Anna? Did
Yeah.
you want to talk about that, the wage for the working assessor?
I believe Doug is the one who wanted to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, if there's going to be a working assessor, the FinCom would prefer that the wage be in line with other wages that we pay people. They've been billing it at $25 an hour for a couple of years, and it's $5 an hour more than the library director was making, and $3 an hour more than the former coordinator was making. Anyway, it just was out of line with the other, what we pay people, and the treasurer estimates her wage at about $20 an hour. So we thought if we continue to have a working assessor line, that it should be at a wage that's more in line with everybody else's.
Well, I think that the actual need for it in the years to come hopefully will be non-existent as long as we're working with RRG. However, I think the line should still stay in the budget just in case. It was somewhat of a rigmarole to get the position set up, so I think keeping it there as an option, if we were no longer able to contract with RRG and had to hire staff again and there was a transition, we would need that position, or some other unforeseen thing like COVID. So I think it should stay in there. I left it in our budget request at the same amount that it's been, figuring if it doesn't get used, it goes back to the town and can be used again the following year. Seems like a nice safety cushion to have. I think when comparing it to other town positions, you need to be a little careful in comparing apples to apples as far as the rate. There are also a number of positions in town, when I looked at the list, that actually make more than the working assessor, and some considerably more in the highway department. So there is a range. We are in the middle of it. This is work that we were paying a consultant $50 an hour to do. It does require knowledge, expertise, training to be able to step into the office at any moment and just pick up and keep it going. It's not something that just anybody could walk in and do. So to the board at the time, it felt like it was a reasonable pay rate.
Well, given that, I would say then actually it should be $20 an hour, because that's what the treasurer gets, and all of those arguments would be valid, except that they're not. The people, the fire chief gets a lot more. He's got 35 or 40 years experience. The highway department road chief gets more. He's got good 40 years experience. The library director has a master's degree in library science. A couple of years being an assessor doesn't put you into anybody. I don't mean that anybody personally in that rank. And if the treasurer and the tax collector, who have 35 years experience, are willing to work for $20 an hour, it certainly seemed like a good wage to me. So what I would propose is that, given what you said, is that I would take the 5,000 and I would modify that to 4,000 to account for 200 hours at $20 an hour. And it doesn't roll over, by the way, because it's part of Article 4, and it will be a separate line this year in the assessor's budget, because that's the way the accountant thinks it should be. That's what I would propose. It's up to the select board to decide on wage levels. The FinCom makes recommendations about what the budgets are, and the FinCom, well, we'll talk tomorrow, and my recommendation to them would be to make it $4,000 with 200 hours if need be, assuming the wage is $20 an hour.
Is
I,
this
for
some-
one select board member, would support that. It makes sense to me. Any other thoughts from the board?
I think probably what Doug says makes sense, especially like you said, because they aren't expecting to use it.
Oh, we could
It
just
says-
turn it into sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's, go ahead. You can go ahead.
We could just go back to using a consultant if the need were to arise, and just hire a consultant and have a budget in a line item in the budget for a consultant.
So you're going to blackmail us.
No, I'm just saying that that's another option. I'm
You're
not
threat-
blackmailing you,
The
Doug.
threat now is you're not getting the money that you wanted. That doesn't sound good. I'm sorry. If this had come to the FinCom in the first place, we discussed that, we would have recommended a more reasonable wage compared to everybody else. But now that I've heard that what your arguments are, it makes me all the more determined that I think $20 is fine. I mean, I would have been adjusted at something else, but I think it's a fairly unreasonable expectation that because somebody's an assessor for a year or two, that they think they should get what, are you working for the town as a thing that you are giving to the town? Or these other people they're making a living on this. This is what the fire chief and the road boss and the road crew do. You do this for a living.
Doug,
Yeah.
please, I don't like the tone that you're taking with me. I'm
I
not okay
didn't
with
like
it.
yours. Didn't like yours either.
I hear
Sorry.
that you didn't like it. I have apologized for not including the finance committee. We were up to our ears trying to keep the office running under a lot of stress in
Yeah.
order to get that to happen.
Yep.
Chris
Yep.
ran the assessor's
supported that.
office.
I
Doug,
support
don't
it.
interrupt
What I
me,
don't
please.
support, excuse me, what I don't
Can
support.
somebody help me
Wait,
here on the
say-
select
I
board?
think,
I would like to be
excuse
able to
me,
speak.
excuse
Okay.
me.
That's a lot.
Doug, excuse me. Can you please raise your hands and we can go back and forth?
Okay.
Who would like to start?
I would just like to say.
Please raise your hand so I can recognize you and we'll go back and forth. Anna?
I would just like to say that Chris took on this job. She had over 10 years experience and was able to keep our office running. I now have 6 years almost experience doing this. It's not nothing. And there is a portion of being an elected official that, yes, you come in and you do something for the service of the town. Requiring one of us to come in and keep the office running, working more than 20 hours a week at no pay is an unreasonable expectation of any elected official. I think anybody who's doing that kind of work should be compensated and compensated fairly.
Okay, Doug?
I have never had an issue about about the job existing. I've never had an issue about them being compensated when there are only two of them and no, administrative assessor. What I had an issue was the pay rate itself. And it just, sure, this year there's going to be wage increases, but for the last 2 years, the working assessor has been paid $5 more than the library director. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm surprised that they can't realize it. And as far as being upset by what you said, when you say something like, well, then we should just, hire a consultant instead. I'd rather pay the consultant if that's your attitude.
That, I think that's.
Can we go back and forth and be recognized? I'm sorry, but in order to keep it civil, it would be best if we know who's speaking and can go one at a time, because two people talking at once is not going to really help. And I think actually we've heard the arguments on both sides at this point.
Mhm.
And maybe it's time to hear something from the select board, which
Yep.
does have to make the final decision.
I guess it's hard for me to hear. I guess it's hard. It's hard for me to hear the animosity about this because I feel like everybody does work really hard, and I feel like the assessors were put in a situation that was very challenging in terms of keeping the office going with losing their clerks and needing to get the job done. I read the information about the apology for the rate. I feel like if we could work towards coming towards an agreement on a rate and not just have it go back and forth between 20 and 25, if maybe we could settle on what felt like to have a real conversation about what makes sense for a rate. And then I'm also hearing that it's likely not going to be used. So I feel like having an argument continue about this for something that may not continue. And if it's something that is only used here and there as needed, the idea of having a consultant that we call on who has the expertise, rather than if Anna's not in the office or Martha's not in the office or somebody with no experience, then we have somebody with experience. I could see that as a valid reason to use a consultant. So those are my thoughts about it.
Lori?
Yeah, I think if it would be, I don't know if there is a middle ground, if more discussion would help that. But I guess if the idea that it probably won't be used, and maybe you can clarify, the only reason it would be used is if RRG, if somehow we stopped working with RRG, is that correct? Anna?
That's one scenario where we would need to use it likely if that happened unexpectedly and we weren't able to plan ahead. You know, one would hope that with a larger company like RRG, something like COVID wouldn't cause the interruptions in staffing that we experienced. So that's less likely, but I think there could be some unforeseen issue where it was needed.
Okay.
I would hope not, though.
Yeah, and I guess the other thought is, since this didn't go through the FinCom originally, I think it might make sense that now that we have where you have a breather and we have time to figure it out, taking the FinCom's recommendations into account is a good thing to do at this point. So unless we want to have more discussion to see if there's a more middle ground, I guess I would lean towards going with the FinCom recommendation, just because we know it's unlikely to be used, and if it is, it will be minimal. And that's, because we have the luxury of going through the FinCom at this point in time, then that would be the way to do it.
Now, has the FinCom made a formal recommendation on this, or that was going to happen tomorrow?
No, that would probably happen tomorrow and would be part of the budget.
Yeah, because we're really talking about next year's budget.
Although a substantial line has been used this year.
Yeah. So I agree with Lori that it makes sense to take further consideration about this and let the FinCom have a chance to kick it around, get their actual recommendation on it. And there's no rush. Something we can address at our next meeting.
If it's
Anna?
it's getting put into a different line item that's specifically for a wage, that would
Yes.
not allow it to be used for a consultant. Is that correct? If that was some combination was needed, like Lori was suggesting.
If that's what we decided to do for the year, there'd be a different matter. I would consult with the accountant about that. It probably could be used. So it's my hunch.
Okay. If everybody's okay with that, then we'll just kick it down the road, as we so often do, and talk about it at the next meeting. Unless anyone has any further thoughts to add at the moment. Well, Anna, thank you again for your valiant upholding of the assessor's positions in this. And Doug, thanks to you as always. And hopefully we can work this out in a peaceable way.
FinCom will deliberate.
Good night.
Nice,
Thank you.
thanks. Well, you know, I think the pandemic is influencing everything these days, and including everybody's temperaments. So it's really important to try to stay calm and remember that we're all under some pressure in different ways. And it often surfaces in ways that we can't control and that nobody would really like. So we will work hard to get around that. Were we down to the warrant for the special town meeting at this point?
The final item.
Do you have a list so far, Glenn, of warrant articles for
I
that?
do. And I'm just so not used to working on a computer that I can't access from anywhere. So I have a list on the computer back in the office.
Well, as I mentioned to Glenn, that a special town meeting needs to be posted 2 weeks in advance. And we had picked a date in early April for the special. It was it the 9th? I don't.
I think
The
so.
6th, I
Sixth.
think.
6th. Okay, so 2 weeks before that would be the deadline for posting, which would put it roughly in the middle of March. Sorry, Anna.
Oh, is it the 7th?
23rd.
Oh, 23rd.
The 3rd?
23rd.
23rd.
Oh, the 23rd would be the last possible posting date. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay,
that would
thanks
be
for
14
that.
days before April 6th.
So we do have some time, but Glenn, if you could come up with that list that you do have and send it out to us all in the next few
Absolutely.
days, then we'll see what we need to add to that. And make sure it goes to Doug, because I know that he also has in his mind a list of special town meeting articles.
Okay.
Yep.
Will do.
I
Should-
can't, sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Should it be sent one more time to the larger group of everybody saying if you have any items for the special town meeting warrant for the meeting that will be held April 6th? Make sure to have it in by
Yeah, doesn't
like the
hurt.
14th.
Should I send the draft list to the whole group so they know what's on there, or should I just put an open call?
Yeah, an open call, I think.
Okay, great. So I'll send the draft list to the select board and I will put an open call to all departments and committees.
Great. And send your list to Doug also.
And Doug, yep.
And me too.
And to Josh Hyman, our reporter, our faithful reporter. Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Gillian?
I just did have one question. I'm wondering if if Glenn included in that all call email, the list, this is what I currently have, so that he's not getting, well, did you get this request? Did you get this? You know,
That's
then
fine.
people can sort of self-check that, oh yeah, he's got it. So I don't have to worry about it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everybody saw Barbara's email, Board of Health email about the masking and her recommendations for that. But it looks like we can have a mask optional meeting in the town hall for those who are vaccinated, and with the air purifiers running. That was the Board of Health's recommendation.
Okay, that sounds like progress.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, do we want to then either at this meeting or the next meeting, also end our last request for a mask mandate in the buildings, if that's what the Board of Health has suggested?
Does Anna or Glenn have any thoughts on that? Being the ones who are in the office, in the buildings, because we need to be hasty if it's still.
I'm happy letting people keep their masks on. but I'm not going to be mad if somebody shows up without a mask on because I will wear a mask. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Seems to be where we're headed. And I can't say I'm 100% comfortable with it, but so I'm going to be keeping my mask on too. But it seems to be where the recommendations are going. So whatever you all want to do.
Oh, I'm happy keeping it the way it is for now.
Yeah, I'm in no rush to do anything.
Me either. I just wanted to address it and make sure that we noted.
Good. We'll stay on
Maybe
top of it.
maybe revisit in the late spring or early summer, see where we are.
Mhm.
We might have to, well, we'll see. I don't know if we'll want to do something before the meeting, if we truly want to make it mask optional, or if we just want to say it's not mask optional, the town meeting. That'll be.
I mean, we can do that, strongly encourage people to wear masks in a group setting like town meeting. Strongly encourage is always one of those that maybe will bump people into continuing to wear it because, but it's not required.
Yeah, one thing we learned at the Greenfield School Committee meeting last night is that if you don't have a way of enforcing a rule, then if people come and refuse to follow it, then you're kind of left not knowing exactly what to do or how to manage the situation. So strongly encourage probably makes sense for an open event like a town meeting.
Right, right.
I don't think we have a whole lot of weight behind requirement.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that all sounds good. Did either of you have any other agenda items, Gillian or Lori?
Oh, one thing I don't know if we need to talk about this tonight or not, was the meetings, the third, oh gosh, school committee conflict meetings for Glenn. That had come up over email, and I don't know if we want to talk about it tonight or it's not until April, did you say?
Yeah, April is the first one where there's a conflict and it goes through June, the second Wednesdays. But we could formally close out this meeting and the four of us could stay on Zoom to discuss because we don't have to be in a formal meeting to discuss scheduling. So that's a possibility.
Well, unless there's some objection, I think we're in an open meeting and we can discuss it.
Great.
I put my feelings in an email earlier, which is that it's very difficult to alter the select board schedule because of all the other items that are hooked into it. And that I would hope that there's a way that you could possibly deal with the school committee and miss those meetings or miss part of them or.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I negotiated with you all as part of before I signed on, because just as you all have your select board meetings and you might not have, signed on for a job that would require you to miss select board meetings, I can't miss school committee meetings because I've been elected to serve. And so that's why it was part of my negotiations with you about signing on for this job. And I would hope that the select board can honor the commitment that they made to accommodate my schedule or make it some way so that I don't have to attend whatever works for you, but I will be at the school committee meetings on the second Wednesdays.
Oh, okay. Well, that wasn't entirely clear to me during the negotiation that it was an absolute. But since it is, I would say that we're going to have to miss you at those meetings because I don't think there's any way we can change the select board schedule.
Well, I think sorry, if you want to go, Gilly, go ahead. You raised your hand.
No, I guess I had just sort of thought of that if Glenn was able to just prep us a little earlier for the meeting, I felt like the meetings here or there that we would be okay without him. But I'm ready to hear other suggestions as well.
Well, I think when we first talked about this, we thought maybe we could shift that particular week to a Thursday night meeting. That was one idea, as the alternative to having Glenn miss the meeting. Yeah, I think the main thing about not changing the meetings is not shifting the week away from the warrant. But another point that Glenn made is really there isn't any reason why we can't shift the meeting away from a warrant week. The warrant is what needs to stay every 2 weeks on a schedule. But the meeting doesn't necessarily have to be coupled to that warrant. But
Right,
I
'cause
think
we're not voting on the warrant at the meeting.
right,
Our signatures are what's necessary.
right. But the easiest thing would, to me, is to see if we can shift it to Thursdays, or maybe Glenn would miss them here and there if we don't want to shift.
I'm sorry, Larry, did you just say the last part?
If we decided we didn't want to shift to a Thursday, then we could have Glenn miss the meeting.
Right. Right. Doug?
Just because I was part of the meetings when we discussed this, that it was pretty clear to me in those discussions that we would honor Glenn's need, to tell the truth, that we would either do one of these other things. There was no doubt that we would adapt.
I mean, it's one meeting a month. I mean, it will keep happening is the thing. So there's a series of 3 months where would miss 1 out of 2 meetings per month. I think that it's extremely valuable for me to be here, but I can certainly catch up by watching the Zooms later. So we could experiment in April, May, and June with just me not being here and doing prep work with you before and follow up after. But my preference would be, I mean, and I don't know if the select board wants to consider this, but because the warrants and the meetings aren't actually related, you have to sign the warrant every 2 weeks, but the meeting, and I think it became from my understanding, it became a kind of a tradition because the select board was meeting in person every 2 weeks. And so that was a natural time to sign the warrant. But it might actually accommodate other people as well who have events, for example, on the second Wednesday or the fourth Wednesday or the third Wednesday. If you kept it on a first and third or second and fourth, I know that involves change and people are used to having it every other week, but there would be months where you have a fifth Wednesday and you'd have to figure out what to do with that, have an extra meeting or wait 3 weeks for a meeting. But that's another option to consider, is either switching to a Thursday or going to a first and third Wednesday kind of schedule.
Gillian?
I'm game for considering a first and third. That works for me. Anna?
That doesn't work in April because the first Wednesday is the town meeting.
Right, but we could start it later on, right, as a possibility, and then we can schedule around that.
I guess the question is, which one are you most interested in experimenting with? Anyone that you try could be to see how it goes, see how the town responds and see how it works for you. I guess maybe one of you just wants to make a proposal. And
Can I just ask one clarifying question before you
Of
continue?
course, please.
I missed a little bit of what your back and forth was, but if you change your meetings, you're not changing the warrant schedule. Is that correct?
That's right.
That's
Okay,
right.
that's all I care about.
That's written in stone.
And I think we've all gotten used to coming in to sign warrants. It's not attached to the actual meeting.
Well, you know, there is a future, and it is possible that someday we will be meeting in person again.
Mhm.
And when we did meet in person, we would come into the meeting a little early, and the warrant would be on the table, and the select board would all have the opportunity to go through it one after the other and ask each other about this bill and that bill, and have a sort of orderly and thorough inspection of the warrant together. So there is the possibility that that may happen in the future.
It'll be a first for me.
Yeah, well, it's the first that I would be looking forward to, believe me.
I mean, we had a few in-person meetings, but we didn't quite have that same system down of, you know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that system is long gone at the moment, but
Yeah.
it's possible that it may come back. It was a
Mhm.
preferable system, I think. Anyway, so we have this question. Glenn, when does the first meeting come up that this is an issue?
The second Wednesday in April.
So we have a minute to
Okay.
figure that out. But we have two options. One is experimenting with shifting the schedule around, and the other would be trying to operate with without Glenn at the meetings for half of the meetings. Essentially, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, through
Well,
June, yeah.
Something
Just for
like
those
that.
3 months, not all, not half of every single, all of the meetings.
Well, for those 3 months, it is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And then, there's a fifth Wednesday, and then I'll be back on track for a while. And then there will be another fifth Wednesday, and it'll get thrown off again. So it will keep happening. But
Right. And, the other element is confusion. Because when, there's something simple about every other Wednesday for the select board, when you're supposed to show up. But
yeah, I would think either every other Wednesday or a first and third Wednesday option to keep it clear in people's minds. Because if you go every other Wednesday, except when it's all lands on a second Wednesday and then it's on Thursday, that is harder for people to follow. So,
it is a little harder. Yeah. So that's just one factor.
yeah.
Doug?
For what it's worth, for the rest of the community, certainly for the FinCom, other people like that, having it set as a certain Wednesday of the month is much easier for people to remember and know what's happening.
Yeah.
Always in the past, when I had to get something done that required select board action or whatever, and I wasn't at every select board meeting, I had to go figure out which one it was, and did it conflict with something else I was doing? I couldn't predict it. I wasn't putting them all in my book all the way in advance. And for a lot of us who do come and go a lot from the select board meetings, it would actually be a lot easier if it was predictable in that sense.
Yeah. I was thinking of that too. And I did mention that
Yeah.
a lot of the other departments just sort of figure that we're going to be meeting
Yeah.
every other Wednesday like that.
No, but
Yeah.
I think, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were saying first and third is preferable
Yeah.
to every
No, I'm
other.
way predictable. Not every, yeah, you're right. No, Glenn's right. No, I'm saying that knowing it's first and third or second and fourth or whatever like that is much easier for a populace to remember and know than it is that it's every other week, but you don't know which one it's going to fall on unless you predict it out for 6 months.
Well, the first and third has the complication of running into a little problem every few months, right? When there's the fifth.
Oh,
No.
well,
Oh.
you wouldn't meet every 2 weeks. That's right. You wouldn't. You're meeting twice a month, not every 2 weeks. Do you
Right.
need to meet? So I guess that's the question. Do you need to meet every 2 weeks, or do you need to meet twice a month?
Well, Gillian just had us meeting every week because she thought we weren't.
We're not doing that on a regular basis.
Or
Just-
meeting.
And
So
yeah, I do think that going for 3 weeks is a problem.
I
Well, we
think
could, when that happens, we could have the extra meeting that,
We could. That's right. That's
Yeah.
another alternative.
And since Glenn is so wonderfully organized, he could do out the calendar for the year and we could figure that out ahead of time when we needed to do that,
Exactly, yeah.
right? Because if it's the first and third, if we know it's the first and third through the whole year, we'll be able to see when there's that gap of the 3 weeks. And
And then we'll meet on the 5th.
something like
fifth
that.
Wednesday and the first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And then we would stay away from the second week.
I'm
Right.
obviously self-interested in this, but I think I'm hearing a growing consensus of interest in experimenting with the first and third and fifth Wednesdays.
I'm getting there.
Well,
My
you know, that's
original,
increasing our workload. We might have to go to the
My
FinCom.
job, I gotta work. You guys.
We might have to talk to the FinCom about a salary change.
I play in a band that plays on the fourth Wednesday.
Glenn is gonna lighten our workload so much. It's not gonna
You won't-
matter.
You won't even need that fifth Wednesday. Go 3 weeks. Why do we need to meet?
Okay. I think this is another subject we can kick down the road for at least one meeting and make a final decision.
I'll
after we
put
do that.
together a draft proposed first, third, and fifth schedule for you to consider at the next meeting.
That'd be
Sounds
great.
good.
Right.
Okay, Josh?
What
about the warrant?
Yeah, Glenn, if you're gonna do that, can you put the warrant on there too? So we can see how
Absolutely.
they coincide. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, paying the bills is what I meant.
Yeah, so I mean, what I think we're learning is that the signing the warrant and the meetings, I mean, we've had the warrant on the agenda for our meetings, but there isn't ever a vote on it. It's just that people would come in and sign and they got kind of connected. But I think that folks would need to come in, and there will be weeks when you're all together at the meeting and you can sign off on the warrant because it's lining up. And there will be other meetings where you'll have to come in on your own time or arrange to come in together separate from your regular select board meeting if you want to have discussion and asking each other about invoices and whatnot. So that will be something to keep an eye on if we're thinking of this as an experiment. What is lost and what is gained through doing this, and whether it's worth those trade-offs.
Yeah, good. Gillian?
I've been trying to figure out the next steps with the Code Red and just scheduled a training, which will be on a Wednesday. And it will be on the 9th. So it's next Wednesday. It is a training. We're not going to have a meeting. So it's not being posted as a meeting, but I'm just letting you know. We have a representative from Code Red who's coming to do the training. She's sending out the link for it. And then we'll have another follow-up meeting after that. We're struggling to find times that work for all of us to get together. But we'll keep plugging away at it. Moving ahead.
Thank you for that. Any further thoughts? Or should we
Well,
schedule the signing of this warrant for tomorrow? Doug?
Can I check in with you about two brief things quickly? Financial
Yeah.
things? One is, I did send out a note about the legal expense for the year, and Dan replied that he thought that cutting it back to the usual amount would be okay. And please, if there's anybody thinks of any other reason why it should be higher, please let me know. And the other was, we had discussed whether or not to transfer enough money from the free cash into stabilization at this coming town meeting. I can't think of any reason why we shouldn't, but it would be unusual for us to do that, but it's unusual for us to have as much free cash as we do. So I wonder if anyone has any opinions about that, or concepts about it.
I like the idea of putting it all in the bank.
What are the other options? Spending it
No, just
or
free cash, the
leaving it as free cash?
which we don't like to use free cash as free cash. We'd rather pay for things from stabilization than from free cash accounting wide. It's a general way of doing
Yeah.
things.
It's better track record.
It is.
So then so what would you have done then? Done it at an annual meeting or?
Yeah, we just leave it sit there until the annual and move it. What we'd like to do is, what I'd like to do is move enough to get the stabilization up to $500,000. And then we may do further transfers at the annual with the free cash to do stabilization withdrawals from free cash. I mean, it's like we have traditionally now always moved money to stabilization before we use it for anything else. The one time that we didn't do that, we regretted it because it caused an account problem.
Yeah, and Doug, I don't think actually you can use free cash at the next annual. I think that's too late for it, and you'd have to have a special right before the annual.
No, that's not the case. What we do is we make a transfer to stabilization at the town meeting, and then we take money from the stabilization to pay for, say, taxes or other things. That's okay. We do that every year. That's fine.
Well, usually we do it at a special before the annual.
Not in the last 10 years.
No? Okay.
Yeah, this would be unusual to do it before the special, but there's so much more of it right now for a variety of reasons that I'm tempted to just get it in there in the stabilization. We may have transfers also for the highway department. I would prefer those came from stabilization than from the free cash also.
Yeah.
But which might increase the size of the transfer we would do to stabilization. So we would map that all out before the special town meeting.
Right.
So that's kind of the plan, but I don't know, Carolyn, if Carolyn has any reason why that wouldn't be good too, because she still might be here. Any comment about that, Carolyn? If you're still here, or you're just pretending to be here?
I am here. I may not have fully, you were talking about free cash?
Yes.
And-
I'm asking the question, should we, what is the perspective of anybody here about whether we should make the transfer to stabilization of a substantial amount of the free cash, probably not all of it, but a substantial amount into stabilization at this special town meeting, as opposed to leaving it sitting there in free cash. And if we have to make a transfer for highway work, that may have to be paid for before the other reimbursements we're expecting come in, that we do those transfers from stabilization as well. Double transfer in and out.
Well, I think I have to defer to you because you are more up on the rules and regs of transferring money in and out of stabilization. They both have to happen at town meeting. And so the only way you could use that free cash or transfer from free cash, that has to be a town meeting too, right? Like the select board or the finance committee can just decide to utilize free cash for
That's right.
some purpose.
True. I think that's true. I think what we've done in the past, when we did use free cash and regretted it, was where we took it directly from free cash at a town meeting as opposed to putting it in stabilization.
Right.
Yes.
So if the standard course has been cycle it into stabilization and then cycle it back out. So
yeah,
I don't see any reason to change the course.
Okay, that's helpful. Good.
And Doug, is there any reason not to put the whole amount in stabilization?
There may not be, now that we're thinking about it in that way. There may not be. Right.
But then it's in the bank and
yeah.
Then
we know where it is, and we know when we take the money out of it for various purposes. We know it's easy to keep a track of how much is in it, and
it's a good record keeping mechanism.
Yeah, it makes
good.
And it's easier for people to understand the movement, I think, in the warrant.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, let's do that.
Okie doke. Well, we're getting near the witching hour, so should we have a schedule for signing the warrant? Gillian, you want to go early, or what's your preference?
I'll be there in between 7 and 7:30.
Great. And Lori?
I will go. I'll go afternoon, like at 12:30 or 1, if
Okay.
that's okay with you, Dan.
That's fine with me. I'll go around 10.
Okay.
And Glenn, I have one quick question. Did you
Yeah.
hear any response from Chris from Hilltown Network about the MOU?
I haven't. It's on my list to follow up, but I haven't.
Okay.
done anything.
And yeah, I don't want to go through all the old business, although I had it in my dreams that we would go through the old business and scratch off a bunch of the things that no longer belong there, but we can do that later. The
Next
one
meeting.
thing that's on there that does come to mind though is the bidding for the town hall painting. And I just want to check with you, Glenn. I believe we have at least 2 bids in for that now.
Yeah, I don't have all of the bids. I think some of you have received maybe at least one bid, but I got one from Renaissance Painting for 18,340.
That's the only one that you have?
That's the only one I have, but others, I know others were requested. Do any of you have them that I
Well,
haven't?
I must have one for around 25,000 that I got
Okay.
from a fellow. And then I met another painter up there who looked at the job and essentially refused to do it. So that does count as a bid.
Okay,
But at any rate, I will get that other one to you, and then we
Great.
can discuss that at the next meeting.
okay, terrific.
Those bids. And without further ado, I think maybe we're ready to adjourn at 8:47.
Sounds good.
I so move.
Thank you.
Second,
All those in favor of adjourning and having a good night, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Thank you, Glenn.
I'm up for
Thanks,
having a
Josh.
good one.
Thanks, Anna. And
Thanks,
Carol.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Night.
Good night.